Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Move for a Movement. I have with me today Asia Pyron, the founder and director of PY Dance. She teaches, she is the marketing coordinator for Midday Movement in Boston, and does a lot of awesome stuff. So thank you for joining us today, Asia.
Thank you. So excited.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Um, yeah, so just to sort of ground and a little bit more about what the company is all about, PY Dance. The company's productions instill the audience with an experience of curiosity and excitement and storytelling through bodily movement and emotions. Um, so I would love to hear a little bit more about how that interest really developed for you and why that was really something that you wanted to focus on with your company.
Yeah, so just a little correction. So it's actually so funny. I love PY dance, but it's actually pie dance. So like my
Got
yeah.
it. I like that. It sounds
Yeah,
like mathematical.
is that it's so funny. I look my name's like Asia Pyron and I was just like, oh okay, well pie dance. Let's see if it works. So but yeah. Exactly. Like I think a lot of times with my work and my experience as a dancer, I just felt like I was asked to perform and train kind of outside of my mentality and not really bringing in who I am and what I've been through and kind of like how, like, kind of getting the practice of being like, when you step in the studio, you leave everything else out the door. Like, if you're in the studio, you're only focusing on dance, you're focusing on this one thing. And especially training in ballet early in my career, I definitely just realized I was really practicing not um, allowing myself to feel vulnerable when I dance, allowing myself to really like tap into something a little bit deeper than just the visual aspect of dance. So I think sometime, yeah, around college, I went to Boston Conservatory and um, I think there was just a moment where I was just like, man, it's getting really hard to shut out a lot about myself. Like, I don't know why I wasn't feeling myself when I performed, and I didn't really see why I was trying to communicate. Um, well, I feel like dance is such a strong way to communicate and how humans communicate with each other without using words. And so I just felt like I wasn't doing that. And I really didn't feel very confident in my dancing or my performance. And it just had nothing to do with my training. It didn't make me feel like, it wasn't like, oh, I haven't, like, I'm not pointing my feet or I'm not doing this well or I'm not a good dancer because I knew that I was. I was like, but I just don't feel like I'm expressing myself. Like, I don't feel like I'm really doing this for the reason why I started doing this. And so that's really when I started asking myself, like, okay, well, when you create work, like, how can we bring dancers to that point where they have to ask themselves, how they feel every day and how your body is using that sense of vulnerability to express yourself, and knowing that as an artist and because dancers are artists, that we should be allowed to take in what we feel every day, not feel like it needs to be shut out, whether it's has to do with dance or not. Consider how you feel, consider your journey, and see what dance can do and how it can evolve that, how we can really use it to um, not suppress things, but really bring them up, highlight them, lift them up, see how we can work it out. And I think I find a healthier relationship with dance when I do that. And especially with my performers and my dancers within my company, I want them to feel like every time they perform, it's not like a product that we've created and perfected and it's going to be the same every time we sell it, because it's not. And it's like things happen, things change, and I want each performance to just kind of feel like a, you know, daily journal. Like, this is a new blank page. It's going to continue what you talked about last, but it's also, still evolving. So it's not going to be the same thing as last time. So I really want my dancers to know that, like, dance should be a part of them more than just the entertainment aspect. And so that's why I really focus my mission statement on, like, mind body connection, really connecting with yourself when you're performing, and creating an experience that, is going to be unforgettable, going to be something that is actually super valuable. So.
Mm-hmm. there's so much there that connects to wider conversations and culture right now.
Mm.
So more specifically with your company, maybe, those hierarchical and colonized like trappings of our society, you're sort of like in the dance, you're like, I don't want that as part of my process. That's not in the studio with us. I'm curious about how more specifically you create that atmosphere. If you can describe that a little bit more for us.
Yeah, so one thing that I do is that I actually I took this inspiration from a meditation virtual class that I took, and she had asked us in the beginning of the class, express like, she's just like saying like, close your eyes. How's your heart feel today? What color is your heart today? Why is it that color? What does that color feel like? And it really stuck with me. It really made me feel like different. I was like, oh, that's such a creative way to ask somebody like how they feel, because I think she like her point was that, sometimes you ask people, how are you doing today? Or, like, how you been? Or something like that. And people are like, man, I don't know. Yeah, it's like, fine, whatever, it doesn't matter, don't worry about it. But asking that question really kind of makes you be like, oh, okay, well, let me just think about it for a hot second. And out of all the colors, and I always tell my dancers, I'm like, you can have magenta, it can be red, it can be something crazy, it can be just a color that you don't know about or know the name, but maybe it's something that you're looking at. But the point is that you describe this color, and then when you say why, it's like being like, okay, like, well, why does that color make you feel that way, and what it is about that color. Then you start to realize like how many aspects can come with that, like of texture and feelings, and it kind of really just goes beyond the initial question. And I think it's been like the best way for me to really explain um, why I want dancers to bring so much more of themselves into the work, because I feel like dancers can be so creative just stemming from themselves. And so I'm like, okay, well, we look at this small little question of what color your heart is today, and look at how many things come from just this one question. And I think it's just been a really great way and for me to build that atmosphere in my classes and my rehearsals. So that's what I've been doing lately. I also dive into personal investigation when I actually am in my creative process and I'm creating a new work. We talk a lot, like a lot. I love dialogue. I love conversation. I did a piece last year for my senior project, and it was essentially about three girls in an insane asylum, and there's something wrong with them, but at the same time, the only thing that's wrong with them is the fact that people think that there's something wrong with them, so they're kind of like battling with this. And the only reason why I like made it was because I had my first like breakup, my first like heartbreak ever, and I was just kind of like, oh, I feel like, I was just like, I just like need to get all these emotions out. So like through choreography, and we talked a lot about it. And I asked my dancers individually, I was like, okay, like you might not be going through a heartbreak like I am, but what are you going through? How can we connect to each other and relate so that you're not trying to tell my story and I'm not trying to make a story for you either. And so a lot of times I really want to go through like talking, like conducting dances and dialogue and really bringing them into the process that way. So
yeah, and it seems like you start to see those textures and those feelings sort of show up in the work, and that's kind of not something that you can generate. You can't like snap your fingers and will that to be. Right. It does have to come through that dialogue and that exploration and keying into mind body, right. Which you mentioned by something like, what color is your heart today? Yeah, and that mind body connection, like I'm a yoga practitioner, and it's just a hill I will die on, that like if society could find that more and actually recognize it, like we could solve a lot of our problems.
Yeah.
I love but yeah, since you brought that up, I'm curious about how that is reflected in your work. If you could speak to that, like thematically or just stylistically or just in terms of how you conduct your process.
Right. Just give me 1 second. I just need to plug in my computer so that it doesn't die on me.
2021.
I know.
/2020.
Okay. Yeah, that's so funny you said that. I actually have just recently started taking yoga a lot because I work at a
Nice.
yoga fitness center, and I don't teach it, but because I have free classes, I've been
Yep.
diving into it. And yeah, it's been so helpful actually. It's been super inspiring. I would say that through what I've learned by doing yoga really like has been teaching me about the present moment and not really worrying about the end goal of something. And
Yep.
that's something that as a dancer, I'm always worried about the end goal. Like I'm always thinking about the end of something for some reason. And so I have really been enjoying that. And I definitely want to get certified at some point myself, but I've just been enjoying like the movement itself and kind of being able to take my time with exactly like my breathing and all these like things that are coordinating, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this like tension holding thing. It's very like open and relaxed. And I think like within my own choreography, my own practice, like when I create choreography, I can add so much tension to my work and I can add so much, like it could be really fast and speedy. And as a dancer, like when I'm most stressed or if I have to do some improvisation, if someone calls me out on the spot, like I will go crazy. I'll just like do anything hardcore all the time. But I definitely have like after like doing more yoga, I was like, there's such a beauty to just like testing out how much energy you actually need to do something,
Yep.
and like kind of relying on your strength and just like your muscle memory kicks in. And that I just like kind of realized that my energy level is gonna be affected like with everything I do, and it's kind of like I
Mhm.
don't always need to use 100% of my energy to execute something. Like 100% of energy doesn't equal good dance. Like
Yeah.
it's that's the whole like beauty and science between choreography is that you get to play with those kinds of things. And so especially in this new work that I'm creating for in New York, um,
Mhm.
it is going to be something where I physicalize sound. So I'm working with
Mhm.
yeah, like I'm working with the voice of Janis Joplin, and her voice is like up and down and left and right. It's just so beautiful. But the more I listen to it, the more I'm kind of like, oh man, she's got so many things going on that it can't just be 100% all the time, because that's not really what I get out of her either. Like she can go really high or really soft, and like I'm really excited to dive into that for myself, because I tend to have the same texture, the same speed, like for a while, like all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But in this sense, I will definitely play with like how to be more in the moment and like what that is, and like exactly like if I'm listening to one aspect of her voice or one part, like I really have to focus in on that present moment to see how I can best create to have the most accurate like interpretation of that.
Mm, mm. It's interesting you're saying like not thinking about the end goal and like applying that to dance making or like any creative process. Like you don't know what it's going to be. And if you try to like make it what you think it's going to be, like it never ends well.
Exactly. Never. It never does. And it's so
Like
true.
it just has to breathe it as its own thing. It has to evolve to be what it's going to be
Right.
to make
It's,
something that's really organic and feels like something impactful.
it's authentic. Yeah. I always tell my friends that too whenever they are nervous about, going with a project or going with an idea. I'm just like, they're so worried about succeeding. And I'm like, don't worry about succeeding. Like, don't worry about what's going to look like or anything. Like, I know that every piece that I thought I knew what it was going to look like didn't look like that at all. And I was so happy that it didn't, because that's the whole point, is that, you're building a process, you're learning so much like throughout that process. The end, like having a piece at the end not only lasts like 2 days out of like a whole year that it takes me to make a piece or
Yeah.
something. And so
Yeah.
like, yeah, so really don't work looking so much for the end goal is just um it's not going to be as fun as being in the moment and letting yourself learn and letting yourself like build skills within especially when it comes to choreography. Like I'm someone who really I can create a 5-minute piece in like 2 days. Like I tend to push myself really hard to get things done, and I choreograph really fast. It's really easy for me to just like get moves out of my head. But sometimes I have to tell myself, I'm like, slow down, take your time. Like you have more than 2 days, like you know. So yeah.
Yeah. It's like that creative fire, and maybe you like push it out, and then it's a stepping back and like, okay, like how can we refine this?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just like, and I look back at some pieces and I'm kind of like, yeah. Like I'm like, that's a part I would refine like a little bit more. But yeah, exactly.
Right. It's interesting you brought up this idea of like success or succeeding or not, because like in a way, like how can you really define that with art since it's so subjective? Like what a response does it elicit, like that kind of thing. There are certain measures you could perhaps measure success by, but it's also like how important is that and how do you really measure it, like really?
Exactly.
um but in another way, it's almost like failure is part of the process. Like you need to fail to learn.
Hmm. Exactly. You have to. It's no choice. Especially, I mean, like, I think that for me, like, especially as I'm getting into, I saw that you won a grant recently.
Oh, that
Congratulations.
was me.
Oh, was
That
it you?
was me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's so embarrassing. I thought
That's
you
okay.
did. I thought that was for you.
Deanna Palacio. You might know her. Kairos dance. She was on the show as well. She's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yes. Oh, okay. Then I will tell her congratulations. I thought that was. I'm so
I'm
sorry.
not a choreographer. I can choreograph, but it's not the main thing.
Well, I was just about to say, going into grants and I'm applying for fellowships and this grant, that grant. And I know that I now understand why people hire people to write them because they're so hard to write. But I'm just like, okay, well, I'm not doing this so much that I absolutely need this money right now. Like, I'm doing this more because I need to have feedback. I need to kind of figure out what this is and what I need to, improve on so that when I really want to go for a grant and my company is more developed, then I can, now I have actual experience of writing them. And so I definitely I think like you're gonna fail so many times and it's such a good thing to me. And especially like and I tell my dancers that I teach in Nashville that, with ballet, don't do something once and fail and not do it again because you're gonna fail more times than you do it right. And I'm like, don't stop, because my teacher used to tell me it takes like some random number. She said it takes like 100 times to do something for your muscle to remember how to do it. And like that stuck with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I need to do this and I need to practice because I can't try it and then give up. That's like not even trying. And so I'm just kind of like, don't see failure as the end, like see failure as the beginning, because it's always going to be the beginning. It's never going to be, if it's the end, that, it sucks. It seems like you missed out on something. So I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, and it's also like this element of you have to get back on the horse, because if you fail, again, that's nebulous a little bit. You think you failed at least, like, and you don't approach it again, like this is literal psychological science, then you're going to avoid it, and you're
Right.
never going to overcome that and step forward.
Right. Exactly. I think I literally failed my my learner's permit test to drive like 2 times, and I didn't even try to get it for like 2 years after. Like I was like, nope, I'm not even gonna try. And my dad was like, you're gonna have to learn how to drive. He was like, you're gonna have to just get in there and do it, because at some point the anxiety was just so much that's why I didn't want to try it again. Like it was more my anxiety, not that I felt like I wasn't smart enough to pass a learner's permit test. So I think like it's like that, don't let other things and like the kind of energy and anxiety that comes out of it, out of like getting rejected or anything, like don't let that stop you, it's a part of it. You kind of have to get through that and keep going.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of anxiety and uncertainty, 2021, we were speaking a little bit before we started recording about you're teaching virtually in California, and you have a lot of tentacles in a different regions, things you're doing. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you've sort of shifted what the company's doing, what you're doing personally to keep the company's mission alive, and just what you want to be doing out there, right? Keeping that all alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually it's so funny when I always say this and like I always feel bad whenever I say it. But I think that like 2020 when everything went down and like having school shut down and having to graduate so awkwardly, it actually like allowed me to do everything that I wanted to do, but I couldn't do because I was in school and I had to like keep up with
Yeah.
classes and stuff, right? So I definitely felt like even though 2020 came with a lot of restrictions and a big shift in everything possible, but for me personally, I felt like within the limitations, it was kind of fun to find like the space between it and like what's available because I was like, well, it's not like the arts are like dance doesn't stop because we theaters shut down. Like dance doesn't stop because like we don't have studios, which obviously we need theaters, obviously we need support studios, and it's so sad to see them shut down. But I was like, shame on us if we let that stop us. And studios couldn't be
Uh-huh.
studios if we didn't have dancers. And like it's like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
this huge thing that I'm just kind of like realizing. I'm like, for me, as 2020 came in, I was just like, I'm not going to take this as a time where 2020 is going to tell me whether I should keep going or not. If I want to keep going, I'm just going to keep going. And so like that's really just like what I did. And definitely so thankful for Dance Lab New York because I was able to have my first residency ever virtually, and that
Nice.
was amazing. Yeah, I just didn't even think, and that was a company that I had admired for years. I didn't think I would ever be able to work with them until I was like well in my career. So having that after graduating was awesome. And I know I wouldn't have been able to do it because I wasn't in New York. And so it was like that, these opportunities have been coming. It's just been awesome because I think even before COVID, I just wanted to be everywhere. I was like, as a choreographer, I don't want to be just in New York. I don't want to be just in LA. I want to be like as many places as I can. I want to be working out in places. Like I still care about Boston dance so much, even if I'm not there. Like I still want to contribute to that community, and I still want to experience New York art, but I don't want to live in New York. And I'm like, I don't really want to live that that life of either being like New York or LA. Like I was like, no, I like Nashville. I'm a Southern girl. I like to have a Southern space sometimes. And I've enjoyed it so much here as well. And I feel like Nashville is on the up and up. So I was like, yeah, I want to move here. I want to have my base here, but be allowed to experience other places at the same time. So for me, I've been able to find my perfect situation out of this unfortunate situation. And I think it really like I hope to inspire my peers and my friends to do so as well because some people are like, oh, like how did Asia find this or how did she do this? And I'm like, everything that I'm doing is because I'm just researching, looking things up, trying to figure out like trying to figure out what my next step is, even if it's something, even if it's just an idealistic plan. Like I just need to like start that journey, whatever it may be. And I really want to inspire all people who have just graduated or people who are just going into the dance career for the first time to just like explore, because like we are the next generation and we're the ones that are going to have to carry what the generation before us have been carrying. And so I'm very excited for that. I'm excited that hopefully my friends and my peers will be just next to me, just like on the up and up. And we're just all trying to create a better dance environment and dance community for America and the world. And so I definitely don't think that you should ever feel like, not so much that you have to do stuff all the time, because I do stuff all the time. Like, I have a hard time not doing it. And I totally respect if you're like, yeah, I just want to break. Like, I don't want to do that kind of stuff. I just want to do my own thing. And that's like in itself valuable as well as an artist, to kind of like listen to yourself and listen to what your artistry is telling you. Like, what is your passion telling you to do? And if it's telling you to go out there and get it done, go ahead and get done. Like, it's there for you. We have the internet. We've got a lot of things going on. And I know that, like, especially looking at like where you're from or like what your situation is, you can find, I truly believe that everybody can find so much more in their situation than what meets the eye at first, So that's definitely been like my motto, like all 2020 is just like, hey, just like take it every day, see what's there in front of you and just let everything else kind of like follow within that path. And it's going to come to you. Like, what's for you is going to come to you.
Oh, I love that. What's for you is going to come to you.
Yeah, my mom says that to me all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if, we're at home and not much else to do but sort of build things, I know that's what I've been doing. Like, you're busy, you're teaching and everything, and you have a lot of those structured commitments, but, in those between times, it's not like you can go out and go to the park or go to a movie.
Exactly.
We can't go to the park, but if we do have this time at home, it's like, what are the ways that I can make use of this internet connection and begin to build things a little bit more?
Right, exactly. And it could be, I think the best part about it is it can be in a totally different way than anybody else is doing. Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, that person's doing that, and that seems like a lot of work. And if that's what that looks like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, that's totally fine. But what you want to do is literally, that's going to look whatever the way you want to look, like whatever that's going to be. Like, for quarantine, I had no problem. I was chilling in my house every day. I was sleeping every day. I didn't have nothing to do. I was living it up. That's what that was going to look like for me. And, and then I started teaching outside classes. So like right when it got hot outside in Boston and school was out, I was kind of like, okay, great. We'll have these social distance outside classes. And that's just kind of that's what I'm going to do. And this is what it looks like for me. But for you, that can be anything. And I think that's the most fun part, is that you get to explore that and like kind of see where it goes. And it might take you to something even like, more interesting, and it might turn into something that you didn't expect, because it definitely did that for me. So I totally agree with you there. Just like adapt to the space and trust your instinct of like your art. And especially getting the degree, I was like, okay, I have a degree now. I'm gonna we're using it. We're going for it. So we're gonna trust that I've learned enough about my art to actually go with it.
Yep. It's like you work hard for that degree and hope it did something for you in terms of your capabilities.
It's better. I'm still paying for it. So
we're gonna get that all forgiven, but we will see. We will see about that. Yeah, I was going to ask to start to sort of wrap up. What's giving you light in this time, and what are some wins that we can celebrate with you? You've spoken to that a lot, which is amazing. But if there's anything else there that you wanted to mention, what amazing things have happened for you?
Oh man, I mean, definitely so many amazing things have happened. I am just so blessed to be where I am so early in the I graduated maybe almost a year ago now. So maybe about 10 months ago. I've already gotten I 3 residencies since I graduated, amazing opportunities. I've been hired by the company that was Midday Movement series that I was an intern at, and the support that I've gotten from everybody. I've had 2 fundraisers that have been super successful, and so I've had amazing wins. I'm getting prepared to do a New York residency with Mayor Nordstrom Elements, and it'll be a show premiering in May. So I am so excited about that. In terms of light and just things that have just been really like keeping me up is just like, the support has just been amazing. Like I definitely have realized that like a lot of times, even though like people will be like, oh yeah, like that's all you, like you're doing it. And it's like, yeah, okay, yes, I am writing and I am choreographing and I'm doing all that stuff. But I definitely am very thankful for my mentor, Marissa Molinar, and my parents and just my brother, like my friends and like even my dancers who will like put up with my crazy ideas. And, just I'm so thankful for like the people that have got me these opportunities and helped me along the way, because I definitely, it's one thing to have people that believe in you. And then there's one thing to have people that actually know what they're talking about. And then they actually want to help you because you're passionate about it. And so I definitely know that like I wouldn't have gotten any of these opportunities haven't it been for the people that have helped me. So yeah, that just definitely has been making my day every day. Just so thankful for everybody that has my back. So
I love it. It's wonderful. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to share that we didn't hit on before we say goodbye and wrap up.
Just in case you wanted to put this in there, I can send you the link as well. But I'm having a pydance fundraiser in support of my residency in New York. And so I'm raising money to compensate my dancers a little bit more for their time and their work. So yeah, I have a GoFundMe sent up. We're literally like more than halfway through our goal. So we're doing an amazing job now. Everybody's been so great. So yeah, and anybody who's watching this would love to donate, like please do. Really.
We'll get that info up for you for sure.
But yeah, other than that, again, thank you so much, Kath. I'm just so honored to be asked to be interviewed. So thank you.
Sure, you're doing like you've described, you're doing amazing things, not too far out of graduating. So love it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining. This conversation resonated with you. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with someone who you think it might also resonate with. And we will see you next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.